Good afternoon, everybody, and of course a special welcome to one of the stars of Making the Murderer, none other than WBAY reporter Emily Matesic. Next we have a look at one of the most iconic moments of Making a Murderer, or one of the most iconic items. I think there's been more funny memes done about the magic key than anything else. Truly, as I say, an iconic moment of Making a Murderer when the key is found in plain view. And you know, Robert Herman, in one of his conversations, he was still talking to me after the quip about his accordion playing mother having changed sides. He said to me, "I know you're not going to accept this." And I knew straight away he was embarrassed about it. He said, "But not all of the 7 searches were full-on searches. Some were just 10-minute sweeps." I said, "Robert, I don't even know why you've brought that up. I can tell the embarrassment in your voice by your preface to what you just said of, I know you're not going to accept this. I know you're not going to believe this." Now, of course, one of my favourite lines from John Farrak's book, Wrecking Crew, is when he refers to Jim Link and Andy Colburn as crackerjack Manitowoc County Sheriff Department detectives. And of course, it was only on the 7th search, the 7th search of that tiny bedroom. 7 searches. On one occasion, Andy Colburn spent an hour searching the bookcase. He would have known every square millimetre of that bookcase. He would have known every single nail in that bookcase. He would have known it inside and out. If you spend an hour searching a small bookcase. But of course it was on the 7th search, wasn't it? Why 7 searches? Because previously they'd had the problem of Bill Tyson, who I think is affectionately known as Bulldog because he's quite a determined person. And he took his job seriously. Bizarre though it was, his job was to babysit Manitowoc County Sheriff's Departments because the people in his Sheriff Departments are incapable of finding magic keys. You need crackerjack MTSO detectives to do that. But of course, it wasn't on Bill Tyson's watch that the key was eventually found. And note key, one word, key. Interesting as well, Mike Griesbach, in his book, he tries to defend Andy Colburn, but he talks about a bunch of keys. Very convenient how he changes Mike Griesbach from a key to plural keys. Anyway, digressing. Of course, Mr. Daniel Kucharski was too busy looking out for aliens to realise what was going on. And as he looked away, ha-ha, Jim Link comes back and says, "Oh look, there's a key there." And what's really bizarre is that not only did this key magically appear after Colburn examining it for an hour previously, but the key managed to fall and defy gravity. Now, in actual fact, back in 1923, Edward Leedskalnin, who was a Latvian, opened up what's known as Coral Castle. And it was often believed that he used an anti-gravity device. You know, so you wonder, well, was the same forces that were in play down in Florida also present in Wisconsin? No. In actual fact, unfortunately, his longtime friend Orville Irwin spilled the beans in 1996 when he said, no, it was simply physics and leverage. Leverage. Now, in his report about finding the key, Andy Colburn... What did I just say? Silly me. Andy Colburn doesn't write reports. Let's scrub that bit out. Sorry, let's start again. In the report that Andy Colburn didn't write about finding the key, in other words, in his testimony, he admits to being a little bit rough, to applying a bit of leverage to the cabinet. Well, first of all, it's a solid unit, so twisting it is not going to damage it. It's a solid. However, the back panel, yes, had been prized off to reveal a couple of the nails loose at the back. But of course, in his claim of having been a bit rough with it, he says he was twisting it. What I'd like to know, and what I think we should have asked, we, as in the journalistic we, should have asked Andy Colburn is, in which part of the evidence technician training manual does it suggest being rough with items of evidence? I suspect there is no such suggestion within the training manual to be that rough with evidence that you apparently end up breaking the piece of evidence. Maybe that's why it never made its way into court. Interestingly, isn't it, that when our sweaty prize is summing up, he even says, can you set the key aside? A simple admission of the key being planted. And of course, not just the key being planted, everything else being planted. If one item of evidence is planted, then that casts suspicions on everything. And as we've seen, none of it makes sense. To use a technical term, everything in this case is wonky. All 80, 90, 100 or more things about this case are wonky. But he says, rather interestingly, and Kratz is quite clever at doing this. He will say things which are actually true, but he does it as if to make it sound bizarre. He says, you have to believe that your cops killed Teresa Holbach. Yes, Ken. Yes, Ken. I can totally accept that. We've got Kenneth Peterson suggesting it would be easier to eliminate Steve than to frame him. When pushed, he says, yes, to have him killed. We therefore know that there was talk about assassination. That there, quite possibly, within the Manitrock Sheriff's Department, there are certain people who are involved in the assassination unit. Now, again, in a further conversation with Robert Herman, I actually tackled him on the aspect of every item of evidence is questionable. And he suggested that it wasn't questionable. But when I asked him, would you have liked to have been found guilty on that evidence? Even he accepted that he would not. He agreed that he would not like to have been found guilty on that evidence. Anyway, catch you again soon. I've got some more research to do, and catch you later. Bye for now.